Hi guys, KlystromFPV here. A friend of mine asked me a few weeks back on how much does it cost to buy an FPV drone. Then it got me thinking, we are just spoiled in terms of choices. You could just buy a ready to fly and that's not the expensive option anymore after manufacturers like iFlight introduced the Nazgul line of products. But hey, I'm not saying that ready to flies are bad, but after you crash it, those who got them as their first drone are not going to be able to repair it themselves or would have to pay more to have somebody repair it for them, which kinda defeats the purpose of buying an affordable ready to fly. And make no mistake, in our hobby, drones crash and you will crash no matter what you say or like how good you think you are. If you build your own, then you know how things go together, and when they crash, you know how to fix them, or somewhat have an idea of where to start, I would say. Which brings us to today's video. So this is what I think is a good budget build with parts that are easy to find, at least where I live, that is, low cost, but are not crap. Remember guys, cheap does not mean budget, and cheap just meant that you have like a 50-50 chance of it bursting into flames the first time you sneeze at them. And what I have here is, in my opinion, strikes a good balance between compromises and costs. Alright, so this will be a 5-inch build. So we have our 5-inch frame. This is a steel 5-inch frame, and it is a clone of the Impulse RC Apex. I have a review video of this frame, which I will link in the description down below. It's a surprisingly rigid frame for the price, but it's missing some of the plastic bits that you will get from the original. Okay, so I'll walk you through the rest of the components as I build this, so stick around. Next is the ESC. So this is the T-Motor Velox 4-in-1 ESC. It's BL32 and it's rated for 45 amps. T-Motor is one of the premium brands that we have in the world of FPV, and they came up with this budget line of ESC. Their other ESC are highly regarded, so it's safe to say that they know what they're doing, and this should be the good stuff. Do note that this frame does not come with these screws, so you'll have nuts, so you'll have to get some yourselves, or get it from the spare parts from other builds. Just check and see there's enough clearance. Yes, there is, just that those screws poking up is just a bit close to the components on the VTX, on the ESC, but I think it should be fine. So let's put in the rest and see how it goes. Okay, so we got the stack screws down. So I think this should be plenty for both the ESC and flight controller, but we'll see. And one thing good about this frame is that because that screw is only connected to the bottom plate and not the entire way through. See, there's I'm not sure if the light can catch this, but the screw is all the way down there, only secured against the bottom plate, which means that when you want to, say, replace an arm, you still have to remove the entire thing. But one good thing is you do not have to remove the stack screws. This entire unit can just come off, and the bottom plate along with the arms can be removed on its own. Alright, so that's a good thing, I guess. Okay, so let's put in more. Let's see, and let's check for clearance. Oh my. I don't know about you, but that's really awfully close to, you know, the components on the ESC. Let me just check. Well, they're definitely not touching, but just a little bit too close for comfort. Alright, off camera, what I did was I filed down all these edges because originally it was a focus. Okay, originally it was this kind of, you know, sharp edges. So I filed it down. Okay, so that, you know, your battery straps can last longer. So it seems that it's not going to get cut by the frame itself. What I also did is that I filed down all these screws. So you see they are flush with the the press nuts there. So what that did was in so as you can see, you have a lot of clearance now. So no more issue of no more risk of it shorting the ESC during impacts. So yay. Oh, by the way, links to all the products used in this build is linked down in the description below. So if you want, you can buy all of this and follow along and build this yourself. Alright, so the motor is going to be the Emax Eco 2306 2400 kV. I have two friends who have been flying with this motor and there seems to be good motors. No issues so far. So it seems to be a good motor for the price. 2306 meant that it's good for proximity flying, and 2400 is for 4S. You could technically use 6S, and the other parts in this list should be able to handle it just fine. But 6S just meant that you are still more prone to, like, you know, popping an ESC or flight controller. So that's up to you. Alright, so let's unbox and install this. So right off the bat, you can see the screws provided by the Emax Eco is not long enough for this thick arm. So yeah, I gotta go find other screws. So when you choose a screw for your motor, just make sure that it is just enough to cover the base. There, see, just enough to cover the base, but does not protrude too far to touch the motor windings. If it touches the motor windings, well, you're gonna have a really, really, really bad day. There you go. So just make sure that the wires goes along the arm so that it's easier for you to, you know, tidy it up. That looks great. Okay, do note that these are cap head screws, and that just meant that there's going to be a lot more weight at the end of the quad. So it shouldn't affect anything if you're just, you know, normal flying, but I do know some people who are more conscious about the weight of their quad. So this could be something that you don't need to have cap head screws, but you could find these kind of screws that are long enough, and that should work just fine. And I'm using 3 screws only because, well, I've been using 3 screws for the longest time, so there's no issue for me, so I doubt we will have any other issues. Alright, so that's all for the motors. We have all 4 motors secured. So the next thing we need to do is to solder in the motor wires. So let's solder in the motor wires. So the trick is to use a little bit of flux on each of these pads. Alright, so need to align this wire to point. These 3 wires, which wire goes to which pad doesn't really matter. All that matters is this motor. You see there's 6 pads here, so half of these 3 is for this motor, and this 3 is for this motor. So these 3 wires, whichever you solder them to, doesn't really matter. So after you solder, the only thing that it affects is which direction does the motor spin. So that could be easily dealt with in software. It is always good to leave some slack so that next time, let's say when next time when you do a repair, there are some slack for you. So that should be fine. Okay, when you solder, remember not to breach. Remember not to breach. You see, there's a few more pads inside there. Those are the FETs. Okay, so you do not want to solder into those pads itself. That is a short and it'll ruin your day quite fast. So get all of those neat and tidy. And that's what I'm gonna see. Okay, so I'm gonna continue doing the rest. So this is probably gonna fast forward very, very fast. Okay, so we are done with the motors. So let's try solder in the battery wire and also the low ESR cap. So say, yep. Okay, so there's a marking right here that says this is the positive and that is the negative pad. So let's okay, so we have the XT60 and the low ESR cap soldered in. So I guess we can have a quick check on if we have done anything wrong so far. So let's do a continuity check on is there any shorts. Okay, what about the other way around? Don't worry, that's just because of the ESR cap is there. Again, due to the low ESR cap. So looks like there's no shorts. So what we can do now is take a battery and plug it in. So you want to do this really fast, so that if there's anything going wrong, you need to pull out now. Okay, so what we should hear is do, but without the do because the flight controller is not there. So let's give it a go. Ready, guys? Here we go. Okay. Alright, let's check if all four has it. Okay, you can do it by just feeling the motor, like feel for the vibration. Okay, motor number 1, number 2. Okay, so all 4 has it. So that is a success, guys. Alright, so the brains of this build is going to be the HGLRC F7 Zeus flight controller. The F7 flight controller came down in price recently, so it's no excuse to not try to, at least future-proof your build a little bit. And honestly, the red just looked fantastic in my opinion. Also, it's got big pads and USB-C, which is a great quality of life improvement. So let's see how that fits in. So I've already put in the the rubber grommets here. So it should just slide in. Okay, and there's just a little bit, see, a little bit of screws left, so that's gonna be a little bit of annoying, but shouldn't be too much of a problem. Okay, so alright, so let's try to connect the flight controller to the ESC. So because this is a 4-in-1 ESC, it comes in this wiring harness. T-Motor provided this wiring harness that is intended to work with some, but not all flight controllers, right? Alright, so if you look at front here, there is a connector right here. So we need to map the connections for, I'm not sure you can see this, for the T-Motor to this. Alright, so what you do with it is you connect, you see there's a flag here, the ESC end of this wire in, or maybe just not connected, but trace out which wire should go into which of these holes. I presume this won't go in. Yep, because this is a 10. Not mistaken. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, so this is a 10 connector JST connector, whereas this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So this is an 8 connector, 8 pin connector, and this is a 10 pin. So 2 pins has to go. All right. So, and again, because this is a 10 pin connector, it won't physically fit into the HDR-RC. But luckily, HDR-RC does provide a bunch of wiring harness. Okay, actually, they are actually for LEDs, DJI Vista, GPS and whatnot. So there are a lot of these kind of connectors. So let's just pick one. I'm sure this isn't the one. Yep, this isn't the one. That would be the one for, where is it? This will be the one if you try to connect to a DJI system. And this short one is the one that we need. Okay, so you can either remove the connector at here, or you can remove you can either remove this connector and only use the wires that you need, or you could remove this connector and this and map this one to the T-Motors connector. And since this one's a lot shorter, so it's going to be a lot neater, I'm going to go with this one. Alright, so I'm going to remove the wires from here. And the way you do that is, notice there's a little tab here. If you lift it up, then, the pins inside are secured by this little tab. So if you remove this, then there you go. The pin comes out. So let's do that for all pins. It's a bit tricky to do in front of a camera. Alright, so that's out. Set it aside. And now we need to repeat the same thing for this guy. Okay, so I removed the connector off camera. So this is what we're left with for the shorter link cable that's provided by HDR-RC. So what we need to do is, so it goes in this way. Alright, so what we have to do is we have to match these to all of these. Okay, so right off the bat, the BAT is battery, should go to VBAT. Ground should go to one of those two ground on top, doesn't matter which one. Okay, S1, S2, S3, S4 corresponds to 1, 2, 3, 4 on the ESC. And what else we got? Okay, so current matches with CRT over here, and R6, RX6, I guess. Okay, goes to TX, I guess. Yeah, so with this in, I can see that the black wire is the ground and the red wire is bat. So let's do this. I'm just going to show the VBAT and the VBAT and the ground. So the rest should just follow the same. So according to this, again, VBAT is the third one from top and ground should be second one from top. So let's go to second one from top. And it should click in. Just like that. So connected ground to the second one from top. Okay. And VBAT to third from top. That's it. Okay. And I'm going to do the rest. And you should be able to follow along by following what I did just now. Alright, so here you go. So this is after I'm done with mapping two connectors. And guys, do be very, very careful about this and take your time, get it done correctly. Okay, so if you screwed up the power, if you screwed up anything else other than the power leads, it's probably fine. You won't fry anything. If you messed up the motor wires, you can always fix it in Betaflight via resource mapping, the motor resource mapping. And if you messed up these two, I don't think anything serious will happen because both are 3.3 volts wires. But if you messed up these two, any one of these two, you're gonna have a bad day. All right. So take your time, make sure all of this is correct before you proceed. Okay, that should be in. Okay, and next, connect it to the flight controller. Round. All right. All right. So at this stage, you can just plunk it down. Okay. So now you can again test with a battery to see if everything works. This time around, because the flight controller is already connected, you should hear the. Okay. All right. So let's try. Yes. So if you get this, it means this tab is most of the connection is correct, right? And if you done this wrong, well, you wouldn't be watching this video right now because you will have smoked your flight controller and most probably you will need to buy a new one. All right, sorry about that, but you really should have checked the wiring connection just now. All right, so at this point, I would like to solder in the VTX. Okay, so the VTX is an Eachine TX805. It does 800 milliwatts. It does smart audio. It's cheap, but I've used it in the build before, so I know it works fine. When you buy this, make sure you select the correct SMA connector. Let me show you. So it comes in the box like this, and if you open up, this is a a flimsy little antenna that nobody wants to use, and this is the one that you connect to your main antenna. So make sure you get the same connector here as your antenna. Either both the VTX and your antenna has to be RP SMA, or both should be at just the normal SMA. So do watch out for this. Okay, so before that, I think this is a good time to scroll down. And again, don't tighten this all the way down, otherwise the gummies won't, the gummies won't be able to do their work. So with this, let's plan out where we want this. Ideally, we want this side up because all the LEDs, the indicated LEDs are right here. And I think we can just plop it down like that. Yep, that will be perfect. Okay, because it gives us access to the button right here, and the antenna, the MMCX connector is, let me actually put it in the middle. So the MMCX connector is right here, so it's relatively safe from impact. So on the HGRC, you need to solder to this is your smart audio. This is where your smart audio goes. This is TX3. This is video out. This is ground for the for your, what do you call? This is ground for your VTX, and this is VVAT for, this is a regulated 9 volts for your VTX. So over here, what you need is this smart audio pad goes to your TX3. The 5 volt and ground we can remove. The video pad goes to the video out pad on the flight controller. The ground goes to the ground pad on the flight controller, and this goes to the 9 volt output on the flight controller. Right. So I'm gonna remove this too, which we don't need, and just snip it off. Although the soldering should be a lot better, but there's like this black goop here that's should be strain relief for the other wires, so I don't want to mess with those. So this is the next best thing I can do. And let's tin the wires and the pads that we need. And this is TX3. This is video out. And the last two is ground and regulated 9 volts. Okay. Alright, let's do the same. Let's tin these wires. What I got here is this heat shrink, which maybe I can use a smaller one. But I don't think this will fit. Yeah, that won't fit. This guy, what we want to do is we want to leave like half a centimeter before and after. Alright, so that should protect it from shorting against the frame. So I'll just need to snip it off a little bit at the end here so that we can get access to the MMCX and also the buttons. Alright, so we have clear access to the buttons and also the MMCX. Alright, so clear to go. This should be able to just plop down here. Nice. These wires can go here. First up is the smart audio. And there's the video in, the video out from the flight controller's perspective. Right. Then there's ground. And regulated 9 volts. Okay. So next up would be the receiver. So the receiver for this build is gonna be the Jumper R1F. This is a FrSky ACCST compatible receiver. It's a very affordable receiver, but and then it does F-port. Personally, I prefer F-port over S-bus because it's low latency and it's carry telemetry information as well, which means that you don't have to solder another S-port wire, which saves a little bit of soldering effort. So you just have 3 wires and that's it. You can use whatever receiver you want in this build, but I'm just using this because this is what I have around. If you have FrSky Access radio, then you would have to swap this for an RXSR, which is a bit of a mess, but that is out of the scope of this video. Alright, so what this is the red wire is a 5 volts in, the black wire is the ground, and the green wire is F-port. Okay, so what I need to do is right here, I'll pick the pad that I want to use for the receiver. So I'm gonna pick ground, 5 volts, and T1. So that is TX1, the transmit pin on UART 1. Okay. The wires here is because this is a used unit, so it's already 10. So I just need to grab this wire, solder it in to 5 volts, Okay. Black wire to ground. And a green wire to the T1 that we identified just now. And that's it. That's gonna be a bit of a nuisance. What I can do is I can route one of the antennas to here. This used to be my method of securing 2.4 GHz antenna when I was still using a FrSky 2.4 GHz system. And then the other one can probably just go like this, or like going, yeah, coming out from the behind here. Okay, so that's good. Okay. So I think what I want to do is I want to cable tie this down. I'll shrink that down so that it will stay together. Okay. All right. So let's do a little bit of check. Okay. So if you connect the power cable in now, you'll probably fry the VTX because the VTX is meant to work with an antenna on. So let's connect pigtail, and speaking of which, the antenna, it's nothing special, but they're just this Foxeer Lollipop. The performance is not the best, but it's really durable. I have it on my own quad and I never managed to break any prop strike, crashing butt first into the ground, and you name it, it just doesn't break. So there you go. Okay, so there's a VTX antenna. Now you can test. So you see everything just light up. The receiver lights up. Even the Ishin VTX lights up. So that's a very, very good sign that everything's working correctly. Alright, so the last piece here is going to be the camera. And this is what makes this build an FPV build. The camera. Alright, so again, it's nothing special because we are just going with a budget build. This is a Foxeer Aero Mini Pro. I like Foxeer stuff, and I'm currently flying the Predator 4, so let's see how this one performs. Okay, so to install this, you get the camera plate. Okay, and there's a bag of screws included with the camera. So we need to pick 4 screws. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, so we need to pick 4 screws because it has 4 holes. Right, so 2 of them is used for just setting a pivot angle, and the other 2 is to set the angle, to lock the angle in, so to speak. Right, so let's see how we do that. So you see, there's a a kidney shaped hole and a straight hole. So the straight hole is gonna be for setting. It's gonna be the pivot point for the camera. I see. Yep, this is just a 2mm hex. Okay. On the other side, it's going through the straight, the single hole. Screw it in. You don't need to tighten it right now because you'll need to set the angle later on. Okay, so this is gonna just plunk down here. Okay, and you can choose which you'll be able to choose what angle you want your camera to be at. And with the other screw, you can just lock that angle in. So I'm not going to do that right now, but what I'm going to do is solder in the cable harness. So this is the harness that comes with the camera. So as you can see, it's twisted together and it's quite long, and I presume we have a lot of unnecessary wires. Okay, so yeah, so the longest that we need is just this at most. You will need to leave some slack, but not that much. Okay, so let's see what this is. So this fits in like this. So we need VCC in, ground, BID, and that's it. The VSense we don't need, and the OSD is to this control that connects to a joystick. Okay, so don't need this VSense wire, so let's just remove it. You could cut them off, but I find it cleaner to just remove it from the connector like this. At the flight controller side, we need 5 volts, ground, and C1. Okay. So let's go ahead and tin those pads. Okay. Alright. And solder is in accordingly. So the red goes to 5 volts. Black goes to ground. Sorry. And yellow goes to C1. And that's it. That's all the soldering that you need for the quad. Alright, so let's tidy this up and install camera. Okay, so this goes in here. Goes in right like this. Okay. Right, then this just plops in. Don't worry about the wire. I'll take care of those separately later on. Okay, so let's just set an angle. So let's say I fly at around 25 degrees. So that's about yay. Let's take the other screw. And that goes in to the donut shaped hole. And this secure camera in. Secure the angle. Do the same for the other side. And that's it. I'm gonna do a little bit of house cleaning and keep managing the stuff. So see you in a bit. Welcome back, guys. So as you can see, I've tidied up everything. I installed the top plate, the antennas, heat shrink, all this, and mount everything nicely. Even install the feet. Okay, so this is already looking good. All the hardware is done. So let's just give it one last try. So we have both beeps, so that meant that we are good. So that is it for this video, guys. If this helps, give the video a like, subscribe for the next video where we go through the setup of Betaflight on this guy, and share the video with your FPV buddies. Until the next video, happy flying and thanks for watching. See you guys.
Oh,